Welcome to another episode of Dil Se Stories. Today I have all the way from Switzerland, Mrs. Brindika Bose. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Parakji. Thank you.
Would you mind introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Okay, so I'm Brindarica Bose, Brinda. I am living in Switzerland for the last 2 decades, and I'm Bengali. But I've lived across several cities in India: Kolkata, Ranchi, Coimbatore, Mumbai. Mumbai is my birthplace, so I'm connected to different parts of India. So if you really ask me if I'm a Bengali or Marathi, then I really feel truly Indian in that sense. And in Switzerland, I'm working as an art teacher, and I'm also working as a publications manager. And yeah, art is my love. Art is my life.
Great. And I'm Parag Bharadwaj. I'm a physician. So let's get started with how did you get interested in art?
I don't even remember actually that because, but there's one memory which is kind of fresh, still fresh, I would say, is, once at a birthday party, I remember when I was really, really very young, and there was a game where you had to draw something. I've never said this to anyone, so this is the first time I'm actually mentioning this. And I drew something. I remember exactly what I drew. I drew a house. And generally, kids, when they draw a house, the roof and the wall, they are all together in the same line. But somehow I drew it differently, and people were standing behind and saying something that, like, complimenting or something like that. That is one memory I remembered. But it's been my mother. I mean, she's an artist herself, but artists in that generation. I mean, she never went to an art school or she never really took up art professionally, but she is the first person who gave me pencils, brushes, colors, and always encouraged me. Even as a young child, she used to take me to all different museums, exhibitions, and art competitions. And even if I used to, fail utterly, she would say, "Next time you will do better." So she's been a big influence in, shaping my artistic career as such.
Great. So I'm going to take you back to your childhood one more time because I remember, growing up, I think
Mhm.
Camlin, was it Camlin that was the big brand? And
Yes,
and I remember like my friends who were artists, how precious those paints and paintbrushes and their pencils and erasers would be for them. So when did you get your first kit?
if you remember that. But what I remember is that, any white paper I would get, I would just start scribbling, doodling, or drawing something. Even calendars, those big A3 calendars, the white side, the white part behind, once the year is over, I would just grab those papers. Any white paper was just too much. I had to take it. I had to grab it and start drawing something. And talking about colors, I don't remember exactly when I got it, but I think when I was in my 10-year-old or something like that, because I used to go to this art school in Kolkata as a child, and we had teachers who were from Shantiniketan, and they were trained in the Bengal School of Art style, many of them. And there we used to intensively use Camlin pastels, crayons. We used to have watercolor classes. So that's where I also kind of got groomed into what are good colors or which, kind of colors you should avoid and stuff like that. Yes.
So sounds like any white paper was an invitation for you to draw,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Also white walls.
Now, yeah, I wish we could get a glimpse of, out of curiosity, the last few pages of your notebooks, because I'm sure you had a lot of drawing scribbled there, right?
Yes, my mother actually saved them from the time I was like 5 and drawing. She saved all those paintings, and last time she gave me a big folder with all those paintings and drawings and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. So some of them are still there despite not having a digital or grown up in a digital age.
Yeah, I'd love for you to share them online because you have a very nice Instagram page, and I really love the works that you upload. So
Thank
please
you.
consider doing that. Now, so you tell us about your journey. You started off with art. You went to different, uh, you grew up in different cities. Now you're in
Mhm.
Switzerland. So how
Mhm.
did your artwork evolve as an
Yeah.
artist?
So I think the years which I spent in Kolkata, they were like they were the foundation of my art career. I would say, not career, but the education, because it was really intensive and I used to go twice or thrice a week, and we had teachers specifically to teach us clay modeling, to teach us watercolors. For now, for example, urban sketching is a trendy thing, but we started it way back then. Our teacher used to take us to the streets or somewhere in a market and say, just start drawing. So those observation skills, the basic foundation or principles about composition, color combination, and sitting in an atmosphere where everyone is painting and drawing. That was very good. So I still use the techniques I learned at that age. I was not even a teenager. I mean, I was 8, 9 years old or something like that. I still use those techniques. So that's what got me started. Then when we went to Ranchi, there also I had a teacher. I mean, I used to go, in India, what is good is we have these weekend classes where a child gets to learn whichever hobby they prefer. And as in Bengali families, especially, it's kind of very important. I mean, irrespective of what you're studying, you need to learn music, art, or whatever, And I was going to these art classes, and somehow when you like something, you absorb it from everywhere and anywhere. I just used to go and learn and just observe people, even if they are not my teachers, wherever I could absorb or learn something. I've been doing that. And even now I'm doing that. So anywhere and everywhere I'm learning and I'm practicing. So since then, I mean, of course, and then I was also teaching a lot of kids. Even the age of 18, we in our house we had a huge garden, and there I used to teach kids, and they are still painting now. I see their paintings in Instagram. And after that, I had a dry spell because I was concentrated on studying and then working. I was also working with Times of India for a short period of time, and then I came here working. But then slowly I realized, this is a very strong part of me, and I cannot ignore it. And that's when I started shifting more towards art, not only in my personal life but also professionally. So connecting more with who I am. And yeah, so since then I have taught in this year also. I'm teaching as an instructor in the Swiss Urban Sketches Symposium. So I've been invited in several workshops and several exhibitions I've done also now internationally as well as in Switzerland here. I teach a lot of refugees, also those who come here, especially from Ukraine, and also give online classes to Robin Hood Academy in India. So I've just like you mentioned, actually, it's very important to give back what you get from the society. So art is not just about painting a canvas and putting it up for sale, but art is about inspiring people, connecting with people, and sometimes even giving solace when they need it. So I see these families who are coming all the way from Ukraine in a war, the families torn apart, and if they sit on a table, hold a brush, and forget about what's happening, what's tormenting their life. I think that's a big thing. So yeah, since then, I just can't ignore art. Art has such a wide scope. I'm still exploring it.
Well, I'm glad you rekindled your passion because, and you're sharing it with us. It's very
Thank you.
impressive. Uh, so, when you moved around in different places in India, I understand there are different art forms in different regions.
Yeah.
So, how do you? I mean, do you think intentionally or subconsciously you're adding different styles when you come up with your art?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always feel art is something which is not a stiff subject, or it's a very flexible thing. It's your reflection of life. Like, for example, tomorrow I may feel like drawing a folk art, perhaps, if I've written, or if I'm reading a lot of Indian texts and ancient texts and folk tales. So I may feel inspired to draw something in a Patachitra style or Kalighat painting style. And then maybe tomorrow, when I go out for a walk in a beautiful sunset and I see the beautiful sunset, I may feel like painting a landscape. So, yes. And as you mentioned, since I was moving in different cities, different places, and also meeting people, different kind of people, that always influences your art. Right? It's an output, right? So the input does influence the output in some way. Yes, absolutely.
Great. So, you grew up in India, you spent a lot of time there, then you moved to Europe, and Europe has its own like art.
Mm.
Do you think you're blending the two, or and is European art really very different from the style that you were exposed to in India?
Mm. Well, in a way, I have also kind of grown up seeing, observing, or reading or learning about European art because I also did a master's in fine arts. And so we had to study about European art as such. In India, how to say, for example, like the kind of folk art that we have grown up with, or when I was in Bengal, the kind of folk art or the Patachitra or what I'm seeing, the Madhubani. I was in Bihar also for such a long time, the Madhubani art or, the Kalamkari. Of course, people who have lived in Europe all through their lives, they have not been exposed to that kind of life, art, right? So they have a different kind of style. So here, when I see the Impressionists, for example, Van Gogh has been a big influence on me as well because the way he uses colors. And just day before yesterday, I went to a Giacometti exhibition here with some of my art friends in Ara Kunst Museum, and the way he thought about art, there was this one diagram and some notes which were kind of displayed where he jotted down with Swiss precision, that this color combination will go very well with that combination of colors. So the mindset is pretty much different, like very scientific way. So even if it's Europe, it's the Swiss precision. You see that, in the way he has been planning his canvas. Whereas someone in Madhubani, for example, the village, this lady who's maybe drawing on a mud wall uh, may not even have the right tools. So she's just using her rice paste. So I consider myself extremely lucky that I have been exposed to both variations, both ranges of Eastern and Western art, so that I can choose and I can learn from both the influences. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Great, great answers. So one thing I've noticed is you have a very wide range of the kind of art that you share with us. Um, you don't confine yourself to a particular style.
No,
So that's
absolutely.
so that's why I would like to ask, encourage the audience to go and have a look at her Instagram page. The other thing is, as a doctor, I've noticed that artists look at the world very differently. And I think there's one clip on your Instagram which summarizes, because I always wonder, like, how do they look at the world, right?
Mm.
I mean, I'm assuming that with your eyes, the world is a lot more colorful with all the splashes that we see in your paintings, right? Uh, and there's a video of you looking at you're traveling by train, and there's a lady next to you who's reading a book, and you capture that sketch so well. So
Really?
are you, yeah, so are you constantly thinking, like, anything that you look at, are you looking at from
Yeah.
the lens of an artist constantly?
Yes. Lens of an artist and also lens of a working mom. So I get very less free time. So I grab any time and every time that I get to draw and paint. And sometimes if I don't even have my paper pencil with me, then I'm even sketching with my fingers because time is so precious. Time is so precious. Life is so precious. All the more after pandemic, we have realized that whatever you love, you have to go out and explore that. You have to get that thing in your life which which you yearn for, and don't wait till you retire and start. So yes, sorry, I forgot your original question now. Actually,
No, I think
what
you
was it
covered
about?
it. You covered it well. Yeah.
Okay, thank
No,
you.
I was asking you, how do you look at the world as an artist,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. How
Yeah.
do I look
So
at the world? Yes. So whatever I'm looking, I always try to find some stories. Mm, I am also a publisher. I write books as well. And exactly what you said, the way you and I are also connecting is over love of art and music and, fine arts. So when I look at something or connect with people, I love interacting with them to know their story. And that also somehow, when I'm looking at a landscape, I really look at the beauty, or even if I don't find beauty, I kind of create it. Like, a typical 7 months here, as you know, we see a lot of gray sky. But despite the gray sky, sometimes there's a peephole in the sky and some sunshine is there. So you have to look at that point and inspire yourself, right?
very well said. Thank you. Thank you. Now, one of the reasons, your paintings caught my eye was the splash of colors.
Mhm.
And I mean, look at the shirt you're wearing, right? You're a very colorful person. So, uh, tell us about,
Pagai
yeah, tell us about your love for colors, and do you have a favorite one?
keeps changing. I do love colors. This is one thing I've noticed. I remember in my very first exhibition here in Switzerland, someone gave me a remark that, oh, your colors are way too colorful, or your paintings are way too colorful, because people have a tendency here to wear black more, wear, shades of black and gray more than any colors. So, but I love colors. I tell them that I've grown up in a country where, colors are there everywhere. So if I don't see colors, then I have to create it. Basically, even the walls in my house, we painted it. So each room is painted with a different color. So yes, if you talk about my signature, then my signature is really, it has to be colorful. And splashing colors is something that I love doing with my brush, just going for intense pigments. And because color, there's a lot of color theory. There's a lot of psychology behind each and every color that you're using as well, and the feeling it gives you. So if you're using a warm hue, warm orange color, for example, when you look at it for a long time, you will get a warm feeling. So colors play a very important role in our lives, and I feel that's part of my style very much, to use colors. So yeah, I always splash colors everywhere.
Great. And yeah, I find it very therapeutic. I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes, in the middle of work, I'll just take a minute or two just to reframe certain thoughts. And then, it's very therapeutic. It's like, wow, look at that. Life is so beautiful, just like you said. You have these splashes of color. And I always tell my friends, yeah, we should look at life with colors, not in black and white.
Yeah, true,
Right?
true.
So, I've noticed that you also have drawn and painted different well-known buildings and locations. You have any favorite one, or you have any story to share with us where you were in the middle of painting something and somebody hit your painting by mistake and ruined it?
Well, there are always many things happening. My husband, I mean, he loves traveling, so he often takes us to these very exquisitely tailored, like trips. And um, so we have been also within Europe, we have been traveling intensively. But the thing is, when we are traveling, then you don't really have much time, right? So I'm there with my family, and maybe, yeah, there's so many stories. For example, if I say this, you may feel that I'm really nuts, because just it was last year, yeah, last year around April, we had holidays and we took the Eurorail and we went to um, what is this, Scarborough? It's in the in UK. It's one of the coastal cities, and I was sitting next to the sea and painting, and then the sea level was rising. I was the only one sitting and painting there on the stairs. So the sea level was rising. So at a point, I just finished it somehow and came upstairs. And I was sitting in a piazza, kind of, and no one was there at that moment. I was waiting for my kids and my husband to return. And suddenly, this guy wearing a black leather jacket, he was going somewhere else, but he saw me sketching because I was sitting there and just taking the time because I'm waiting and sketching a statue that I saw there. He came and sat next to me, and then he started looking at my drawings and said, so, and then he said that, oh, I watched you drawing there, painting there. Can I have a look? And then he just looked at my paintings and so on. And he was asking too many questions. What's your style? This, that, and from where are you? Oh, you sound like a little bit like you have an Indian accent and so on. And then I got a little bit uncomfortable, and then I said, so where do you come from, and what is your style? It feels like you're also an artist. And to cut the story a little bit short, uh, we had a very interesting conversation where he mentioned stuff like people want to see paintings where everything is rosy with rainbows. They don't want to see paintings with their third eye. They want to see what makes them feel good. And when I asked this person, so where have you been painting? He said, I've been painting all over the world and with rainbows and balloons. And then he mentioned, have you seen Bansky's latest, this so and so painting? I said, yes. So what's your name again? And then within a second, he just said, look at that painting and you will remember me. And within a second, he was gone. By the time it clicked who he could be, because he was reported to be around that area. I read it later in Google, in internet. He was gone. So that's the latest story that I have, which I could share with you.
Yeah, sounds like
Yeah.
even he was impressed and inspired by you.
Or the other way around. But I love telling this story now
Yeah, yeah.
that I met Bansky. Yeah,
So, just to switch gears a little bit,
yeah.
are you born an artist or can you learn to be an artist?
Good question. Are you born a leader or can you become a leader?
Yeah, to me,
When
I
you,
think I think leadership is a sort of a softer skill where art is something that others can visualize, right?
yeah,
And I mean, if you have to draw a horse, it's got to be proportional, right? Like
yeah.
sometimes I'm not able to do it. So, but when one sees you sketching stuff, it seems like second nature looks so easy, right?
This is something I very often tell or suggest to all my art participants is that skill is one thing and art is another thing. To be an artist, you don't have to be a skillful painter, or you don't really always need that. I mean, like being able to draw perfectly, that is something you can learn by going to a school or by, the 10,000, what was it? It's Malcolm, right? The 10,000 hours if you spend on right. So it's a skill, but art is something much beyond, I think. If you love art and if you want to express art, if you want to connect with it, you can become an artist. So you can express by, you don't have to draw the perfect horse, perhaps. You can depict a horse by, like a block to just bring that energy, maybe with two legs, the way MF Hussein has been doing. I mean, he has not been skilled, he doesn't skillfully, technically, draw a horse like a horse, but he expresses the energy or the power of a horse. So, coming back to your question, I think you can become an artist if there has been a moment which makes you connected or which connects you to life and you want to express. Something happens and you want to express. Art is really, it's like opening a door. to a different world. And that can happen anytime, at any point of your life, I guess.
And since you asked me the question back about the leadership aspect, which to me, I think what you create as art, it depends who are you doing it for. I mean, to me, I think as an artist, first you do it for yourself, right?
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if other people like it or not, if it really looks like a horse or not. It's the
Yeah.
satisfaction you get of,
Yeah.
having trying to do something on your own. And usually it's linked with the memory, like you said.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we grew up in a time when we had cameras, but we had to be very cautious about how many pictures we took,
Yes.
right? The technology wasn't as advanced. So
Mhm.
to your
Mhm.
point, when you brought up the issue about drawing things, a lot of people are trying to relive some of the memories which are, locked in their brains and
Yeah.
in their minds. So yeah, it is very therapeutic because you
Yes.
end up creating
Yeah.
it yourself. So you mentioned that you get invited for exhibitions. So if one gets to see Brinda Bose's, an ad for Brinda Bose's exhibition, what does one expect? Because you have such a wide range, right? Is it going to be,
Mhm.
if you are showing it in Europe, is it going to be European style? Is it going to be Indian? Or is it going to be a mix of both?
I think a mix of both. Just 2 months back, I had an exhibition here at Glory Suterhus, and um, not by accident, but quite pretty much by plan, I put up a painting of Kali there, of Kali, of Nachiketa, and Yamraj. And I was very surprised when the curator remarked that Kali is a very strong feminist symbol, and they have studied about Kali in their, when she was doing her education as a curator, and she knew about the topic pretty well. So, as it is in Europe and in the Western world, often if something is of interest, they really go deep into it. So, if I would exhibit here, I am not afraid to show, or not, I wouldn't say the word afraid, but I'm rather proud to show both my cultures, and the same thing there. If I'm in India, then I would love to show maybe my landscapes from Europe, or some Swiss mountains that I've painted. So I want to paint more like paintings based on mythology, bring in more Indian mythological art and paintings and exhibit them here because I feel there is so much missing. There's so many enriching stories. We hear a lot about the Greek mythology, but we barely get to see any paintings based on Indian mythology, on paper. And this painting, which I mentioned, I painted this during the pandemic, and there, it was like Kali and Nachiketa is there, and Yamraj is saying that, "Will you?" No, it was a very emotional moment for me when I painted that art, and I just wanted to exhibit it here. That this is how, even when I am in Europe during the pandemic, I'm connecting back to the gods I've grown up with. So yeah, it doesn't matter where I am. I think I'm a global citizen.
Right, that's very true. I think we live in a time where there's a lot of movement, and but then also you always have that emotional connect with, where you're
Yes,
from. So very
yes.
well said. I've really enjoyed this discussion, and I hope you uh, will
Thank you.
will join us again in the near future and let us know all the great things that you're doing.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. And not only that, also thank you so much for inspiring artists. What you're doing despite your hectic schedule as a doctor, as a medical doctor in a hospital. That's really pushing the boundaries. That's great.
No,
Thank
I
you.
th- I appreciate it. You're very kind. But I would also say that, it's sort of like we are humans too as
Yes,
doctors. So
yes.
it's great talking to you and just connect with, it reminded me of my childhood when I mentioned the Camlin
Wonderful.
and so forth. And it's been,
Wonderful.
and I
Maybe
think
one day
when, yeah, sorry, go
you
ahead.
will pick up the canvas and you will paint next.
Yeah, you never know. But yeah, I think the being an artist brings the child out of you, right? The inner child. in you,
Yes.
and it just you connect with yourself a lot better through art. Is my observation.
Yeah.
Um, we will share your Instagram page in the description of this interview. If there is any other platform that we need to, please do share it with our audience.
Yeah, it's my website, www.brindarica.art. I have two Instagram handles. One is for my urban sketches, which you mentioned, and there is one more with my full name, Brindarica Bose. There I have some of my Indian paintings, not many. So time is the big villain because I'm really chasing time. But yeah, I will keep painting and sharing. I really don't wait for the perfect time or perfect moment to arrive. I just grab hold of every time that I get.
Yeah, one of the wisest thing I ever heard in my life was that there is no perfect moment. If you wait for the perfect
Absolutely.
moment, it may never come. So thanks for sharing it with us and making all of our lives more colorful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Have a good day. Bye.